to the hospital where I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey to hopefully close out this surrogacy journey really well. But also you guys have been asking about an update on how I'm doing with my head after I had that traumatic injury back in 2023. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an update on what's going on there on the brain side of things. And then, as fate would have it, I am now here with my sister-in-law's baby. Hopefully it's going to be pop day, meaning I'm being induced and we'll have the baby, and I'll share a little bit of that journey and just how it's been with having a farm and training the horses and having family and what that's all kind of looked with. It's something like I never thought I would do ever in my life, but when your family needs you, your family needs you. So that's where we're at. So I'll share with you guys a bunch of things. I'll share some footage of what's going on with my Mustang and how that training's been going. It's definitely been harder having a giant watermelon trying to train horses at the same time. But at the same time, it's also been a little bit of a blessing, because after you have a severe brain injury like I had back in 2023, you have a high risk of post-concussive syndrome or having a second concussion and having even more damage. So although I did a little bit of riding and rode my safest, most trained horses and really dependable horses, I didn't do a ton of riding. And so I also don't ride when I'm pregnant, but it's been kind of a blessing, like a silver lining in disguise, because now after popping this baby, I'll have been over a year and a half out from my accident that was September of 2023, and now we're in March of 2025. So it means that I'm at a much safer distance from that accident to start riding again if I were to, heaven forbid, fall again. So let me update you a little bit on what happened with my brain injury and from the accident that happened, and then I'll take you on the journey of giving a baby to your sister-in-law. A quick recap of my injury was back in September 2023 when I fell off at a Mustang horse show. My horse was spooked by somebody else by accident. They were asking their horse to rear and using their whip to get a bigger rear, and it scared my horse, and I stayed on until she was going around a corner, the saddle slid, and I fell, and even though I had a helmet on, my skull fractured and I had multiple brain hemorrhages, and that's what's kind of being pointed to in the screen here. And essentially I was in the ICU for about a week and a half, or close to 2 weeks, and then I was able to go back to Canada. It was a slow healing process where I didn't really know what was going on. Like, I felt okay, and it wasn't until later where I realized I was missing memories, or that I was slower to process things, or I was more emotional. I kind of went through some different phases. Definitely, if you know somebody who's gone through a traumatic brain injury and they think they know everything, it would be so helpful if you show them videos of the doctors looking at their scans and things like that, because in my opinion, I did not have a doctor looking at my scan, and I didn't know that I was being taken care of or that I had an injury. And it took showing me the videos multiple times before the memory stuck, and then I knew what was going on. But every month it got better and better, and I started working back with the horses. I started to heal and have all of the new memories, and I remembered a lot of things. I'm missing some details, but a lot of the things I remembered to do with my kids, or to do with the horses, to do with work, all of those little pieces. Starting to ride again. This is Alfie, one of my Mustangs from the previous year, who's super steady Eddie on the trails, and so I did some riding on him as well as some of my other horses. I also focused on the groundwork challenge of the Mustang competition again. Went back to the exact same competition in Pennsylvania, finished reserve champion, so I'm pretty proud of myself for going back there, although this time it was not ridden, it was on the ground. And then, because I was down in Pennsylvania again, went to the same hospital where I was for the accident and visited them just to bring some treats and say thank you, because it had been a long year of getting to recovery. Part of the recovery is I had many different occupational therapy sessions, speech therapy sessions, helping to work on my memory, a lot of different pieces involved. And then through this time, my sister-in-law, Diana, she had tried asking others to be a surrogate for her, and nobody else was willing. And so with the neurologist on board, kind of making sure that I would be okay to go through the process, I was like, you know what, I can volunteer to do this for you, because if anything, through this whole process and experience, I've realized
how important family is, because they are the people that are there for you when all of this stuff goes bad. Now, I was lucky enough to have lots of support in the horse community as well, people reaching out and donated to help with some of the expenses involved, because it was definitely an expensive thing to happen for an accident like this. And I'm super grateful for that, as well as the people who brought over meals and everything else. But it's definitely made me realize that life can be short and you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And so this is me with my daughter Evelyn taking some snacks to the hospital where we were at. And I decided to do the surrogacy for my sister-in-law. Even though I ride horses and I train horses and I'm a farmer, I'm not the most ideal candidate to be a surrogate for somebody, because I travel a lot and am busy and do a lot of things on the go. But we did, and I didn't know if it'd be successful. But here we are, and now we'll get back to the pregnancy journey.
All right, so a little update on how the whole surrogacy birthing process went. Started off really good. We went back and forth to the hospital a few times, getting induced, which means they kind of do medicine, check how things are going. So came in, contractions were just a minute apart, which is great. They broke my water, and within an hour, I went from 2 centimeters to the 10 centimeters, ready to birth this baby. So we thought, okay, all's going really well. Diana, of course, was with me the whole time. And we did about 3 hours of pushing. And I'm usually a pretty good pusher. I was like, okay, baby, you got to get coming out here. But he just wasn't coming. And then the doctor realized that he was facing the wrong way. He was still head first, but looking up rather than being down. So that makes it even bigger to try to come out, because the circumference of the head, it just fits a little bit of a different way. So they're like, okay, we'll try the vacuum in the OR, and if it's not working, they went to C-section. So that's basically what happened. They tried the vacuum a couple times, didn't work. So he was really stuck. And then here's just a little interesting piece for about listening to our bodies, because my body was doing contractions 1 minute apart, no drugs or anything, was ready. And then my body started saying, like, okay, something's wrong, something's not working. And my contractions started getting to be like 3 to 5 minutes apart. So then we're trying some oxytocin to try to get them to go closer back together. But in my experience with our dog breeding and stuff like that, we know that if labor starts and then it kind of stops, usually that means a puppy is stuck and then they need to go for a C-section. And so this is basically what happened with me, is that my body was stopping the contractions and kind of saying, all right, you need to stop, baby is stuck. So I made a request, and I'm super glad that I did, that I would be put to sleep for the C-section and not be awake, because normally they can just keep going with the epidural, and you can be awake during the C-section. But I'm really glad that I did not do that. And of course, with my epidural, there were some hiccups with that. I had to have a second one done because the first one went into the wrong spot. So anyways, that's a whole other thing. But I'm really glad that I did that, because then there was no panic for what was going to come next, because I was completely oblivious. So the C-section, apparently there was a blood vessel that ruptured, and also part of why the baby was stuck was because my bladder was stuck between his head and my pubic bone, where we were pushing him out of. And so my bladder was very, very bruised and or very swollen. They had to retract it down. And then when I ruptured, a blood vessel ruptured, apparently I lost like about 50% of my blood. So it was pretty significant. And when I woke up, I was just in a bed, and I was sad in general, just because it didn't really go the way that we wanted things to go. And it's okay to be sad when things don't go the way you want them to go. And later on found out that, okay, like I lost a lot of blood. Like my hemoglobin started at 127. That's what my pre-blood work was. And then afterwards I was all the way down to 63, which is really, really low. So I did need a blood transfusion yesterday. I've been in my own room, and baby ended up going to his own room in the NICU, because he ended up having some pretty big bruising from using the vacuum on him a couple times. And then he also had low sugars coming out, so he needed to go on a sugar drip line, which I had advocated about how I usually get gestational diabetes, but because I had been eating so well, my sugars were staying borderline high normal, so it wasn't really captured as gestational diabetes. But he was born with low sugars, and he was born huge, 9 pounds, 8 ounces. So big baby. So he's in the NICU, doing well though, and I'm over here. So Diana still comes over and visits. So does Brandon, who's Diana's husband, and so we're separate, which is okay because he's getting his own care, and then I'm getting my own care, and then my blood is being monitored. So they checked me again today. My hemoglobin had stayed pretty low. It's only 67, I think they said it is. So it hasn't really come up a whole lot, or I think it's 69 actually. And that means I'm going to get another blood transfusion today. So I'm just getting ready for them to do that. So if you're thinking, wow, like Lindsay, you look really pale or don't look like your usual self, it's like, well, yeah, I lost a lot of blood. I am standing for a little bit now because they gave me some good pain meds. So you want to stand when you can and walk around a little bit, not do a whole lot, but I'm trying to do a little bit of movement while I can, while the pain meds are pretty good ones, so I can make sure I'm doing all that kind of stuff. But I'm not walking around too much because I do get very short of breath, get very tired, fatigued, and that's just part of having really low hemoglobin, low blood volume. It's going to take my body a while to recover. I am so lucky to have such a great team at home that there's people that are taking care of the horses, feeding the horses, able to feed the chickens. One of our coaches was even able to take Cadbury out. So that's super awesome that they're still able to do these things.
Ultimately, it's been a really long process. It's been harder to do things around the farm and to work with the horses. And then now, even though we've got this little cutie here, his name is Evander, it's going to be a recovery process when I get home. And I'm really grateful for that team that we have, because we need those supports, because I'm not able to go out and feed the horses or work the horses. And because I ended up with a C-section, it's going to be several weeks before I can actually train or do riding. So it's going to be a longer recovery than if I had a natural birth. So we'll see how things go. I'm just super grateful that I am here and healthy. He is here and healthy. Now I wanted to show you a few of the hospital meals though. I thought you guys might get a kick out of this before we finish up here. So this is a dinner meal of what this looks like when it arrives. And it comes with some milk. There's usually soup. There's sometimes questionable salad. This was the meatball veggie soup, and it's very questionable pasta. It's like more of a mush brick kind of thing. So it's not necessarily the nicest food that you get. And this was a different meal arriving with a little piece of cheese and even an ice cream. But this was a fish, and this was, I thought, a better meal, fish with the rice and some squash and some apple slices. That was pretty nice to arrive. But I was surprised that it came with some ice cream that has like some questionable preservatives in it. But overall, okay. And then here was a breakfast. It's just Cheerios, a banana, cheese. Nothing too crazy going on there, but that's a little bit of the hospital life. And then this is us as we're getting ready to leave the hospital. So Evander and his family got to leave a day before me because of the blood loss and the traumatic C-section that I had. I was actually in the hospital for a couple extra days than regular. And so I ended up leaving a day after him, even though he was in the hospital for his low sugars and the bruising on his head, and he had a little bit of jaundice as well. But all in all, we are healthy. We are here. And now my sister-in-law gets to have a little son for life and joining that family with my brother-in-law too. So I'm really excited for them. And let me know what you think of this journey.
Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.